It is possible to run Ansible as part of Vagrant provisioning. To do so, we have to make a configuration change to the Vagrant file. We have to put our playbook files in the Vagrant project directory. In the configuration file, we then add the line ansible.playbook equals nextgenerationengine.yml. When we boot up the machine now, it will run the Ansible playbook and our Vagrant machine will immediately have the web server installed. Vagrant is useful for your development machines, but let's say you want to provision your staging and production machines using Ansible. If you are using Amazon AWS, then that is possible. You can do it using the Ansible EC2 module. First, we need to install the Boto library and the AWS command line utility. This can easily be done using pip, the Python package manager. The package we need is python-pip. We execute an apt-get update first, so our repository is up to date. Next, we install the AWS CLI and Boto using pip. If you want to test this yourself, you will need an Amazon AWS account. When creating a new Amazon account, you can launch an EC2 microserver for free in the first year. This is called the free tier. This way, it shouldn't cost you any money to test it out. First, you will need to create an IAM user in Amazon AWS. I will provide a procedure document in the notes of this lecture. Through this user, you can access your account through the API. Once you have the credentials, you can configure them in a file called credentials in the folder .aws. This file will be read by the AWS command line utility to log in to your account when you are executing commands. The first command we need to execute is a command to import the SSH key pair. AWS EC2 import key pair will import the key from .ssh id rsa.pub. I gave it the name Ansible. When I launch an instance with the key Ansible, I am sure that I can log in to that instance because I have the private key. We did all the necessary preparation. Let's create a new playbook to provision our new server. This one is a bit longer, so let's go through it. First, we create a new instance. Those commands are executed on localhost, our Ansible server. We don't need to get effects on localhost. That's why the value for get effects is false. Under vars, we declare all the variables we need to do the provisioning process. Our key pair is Ansible. Instance type is T2 micro, the smallest instance that is available on AWS. The security group contains the firewall settings. This is something I configured earlier on AWS. It's a security group that allows all traffic from my IP address to the instance. The image ID refers to a publicly available Ubuntu image. This is the OS that is going to be installed on AWS. The region I want to launch my instance in is EU West 1, which is Ireland. The subnet is an available subnet in your account. AWS automatically creates subnets for you, so you could just copy-paste this subnet from your account settings to the playbook. The last variable is the group name, which is again our web service group. Our first task is going to launch the instance. It's going to use the EC2 module to connect to the AWS API and launch an instance. With the variable separated from the actual task, this code is pretty default code that you could potentially reuse. The next task is to add the new instance to the host group web servers. The next task is to add the new instance to the host group web servers. Then the next step after that is to wait for SSH to come up, which can take a couple of minutes. Once SSH is up, it will continue running the next playbook, next generation engine-ec2 YML, the last line of our playbook. Next generation engine-ec2 YML is the same as our original playbook, with a few modifications. The reason for the modifications is that AWS Ubuntu image doesn't allow root login. The SSH authorized keys gets installed in the home directory of the Ubuntu user. We therefore have to enable sudo and set remote user to Ubuntu. Ansible will then use the Ubuntu user when logging into SSH and use sudo to gain root permissions. Once we start using cloud, it's not recommended using a static inventory file anymore. The instances we launch, they come and go, and will often have different IP addresses. It's better to pass a script to Ansible to build the inventory dynamically. To do that, we can run Ansible playbook with -i ec2.py a script that will build the inventory dynamically. This script will access the AWS API and gather the IP addresses. ec2.py can be found on the Ansible website or in my Git repository with all the Ansible playbooks I use in this course. In the next lecture, I will show you how we're going to do that in a demo.